The next point of discussion is capital punishment. As early as Genesis 9:6, God decreed that if anyone sheds the blood of man, then by men shall their blood be shed. The Mosaic civil law decreed the death penalty for a number of crimes. And in Romans 13:4, it declares that the government has the God-given right and responsibility to wield the sword for the sake of curbing wickedness and protecting the innocent. Therefore, the government can and should punish evildoers, whether this be by death penalty, exile, or imprisonment. Although the Lutherans do stress that the government are to enact just punishments, and that this is to be done without sin. Therefore, we must draw a distinction between capital punishment and state-sanctioned murder. For example, the government can execute criminals for their crimes. The Bible does not provide a clear guideline regarding capital punishment and the severity of a crime, although we could imply certain limits based on the Mosaic law. Therefore, a government could enact a death penalty for a severe crime, such as mass murder, or even for a lesser crime, such as drug trafficking, as is the case in countries like Indonesia. In the Mosaic law, things like adultery and homosexuality were punishable by death. As is, I think, now in the country of Nigeria, or I'm sorry, don't quote me. There is a African country that's recently brought in the death penalty for homosexuality. I think it's Nigeria, but don't quote me on it because I've, for this point in time, blanked on which exact country that is. Point being, there are times when homosexuality was punishable by death. In these cases, however, the criminal is put to death for the crime they have committed. So when we say death penalty homosexuality, it wasn't for just having homosexual thoughts or tendencies, it was for like actually committing the act of sodomy and homosexual intercourse. The government does have the right and the responsibility to punish evildoers, but they do not possess the right to punish non-criminals. Here I am not referring to the execution of those who are falsely accused, because in such a case, even though the person may have been wrongly convicted, the reason for their execution is still the conviction of a crime. What I'm talking about here is when the government murders people for non-crimes. For example, during the Holocaust, when the Nazis murdered Jews simply because of their Jewish ethnicity. Being born of a certain race or ethnicity is not a crime, and thus the government does not possess the right to execute people based on their race. Such practices should be opposed by Christians. Likewise, it goes in the case of abortion, in which the government permits the murder of the unborn. Being conceived is not a crime, and thus the government does not have the right to legalize abortion, and thus Christians should oppose it.